Hi. This course is a course in critical thinking. This is not a history course of thoughts, even though we're going to talk about some history. And it's not a regular critical thinking course which goes into formal logic and subjects like that. It would probably be better if I called it critical thoughts. You go through history, you discover that there were some thoughts that did change the world. Anybody who knows me in social media knows that my motto is change your mind, change the world. I didn't come to that motto lightly. I know that it's true. Let's look at the first thought. We're going to look at a book that you can purchase called Forgotten Truths, The Common Vision of the World's Religions by Huston Smith. But we're not looking at it probably the way Professor Smith would have liked us to. Instead, we're going to look at it from the question of whether there is a conflict between science and religion. Professor Smith is a very wise man, and I believe that you will find his description of ideas probably some of the most important analyses of how to think about the difference between science and religion. It's the best analysis I've ever found. Okay, let's ask his first question. If cultures see things differently, if they see things from a different point of view, then does that mean there's no such thing as a better or worse culture? I know you've heard this in your classrooms. That's just your value judgment. Well, we are the first culture in history to seriously ask this question. All throughout history in the past, each culture thought their culture was the best. Cultures do see things differently. If people see truth differently, then does that mean that there is no such thing as truth? We're the first culture in history to seriously ask this question, too. Ours is actually the first culture to ask the question, is it possible there is no such thing as truth? In a manner of speaking, people didn't travel the way we do now. People certainly didn't have televisions which bring other civilizations into our homes. They didn't know that others saw the truth differently. But for Professor Smith, when we compare truths of different civilizations, a single truth begins to emerge. He saw it as a kind of geometry, that there's an invisible geometry that has everywhere been working to shape a single truth. He looked at all the different civilizations. He looked at all the how different societies throughout history saw the truth. And he believed he had found the underlying vision that is common to all the world's religions, and something that our culture has apparently, for the most part, forgotten. How did we forget? Good question. I'm glad you asked. According to Smith, we have made an intellectual error. Because science has been such a powerful tool for knowledge, we mistakenly thought that it would also give us the architecture for a world view. Science can give us medicine, and its child technology can give us MacBook Pros like the one I'm using, and iPhones. But that's just half the world. That's its physical, calculable, testable, controllable half. And as we will see, even that has limits. For 2,000 years, Europeans followed Aristotelian crystalline sphere theory of the universe. There were crystalline spheres, and each sphere went around another sphere, kind of like an onion, except in a perfect circle, and the Earth was in the middle. Classic science, Newtonian science, replaced Aristotle with a clockwork universe. It works like a machine. In the clockwork universe, the Earth is in the middle, and all of the spheres go around the Earth, and that is how we see the stars and the other planets. I spent quite a lot of time studying ancient astronomy because I went to St. John's College, which teaches Ptolemy, and he was the scientist of record for astronomy for quite a long time. But modern science comes away with a very different view. Richard Feynman, the philosopher and scientist, has said, "No one has any idea how nature can be the way it is." In postmodern science, there's really an absence of a model. There's no spheres, there's no clockwork, there are no models that we can use in a simple way that converge to make sense out of nature. We're a little lost. We've got so many facts. Google it. But we don't have a world view in which to put them in their place. That picture, by the way, is a photograph of other galaxies, not just stars. I think that speaks for itself. Anyone who isn't confused today simply isn't thinking straight. So what are we doing in our postmodern culture? What are we doing in science? Well, we're looking for a pattern. In Smith's opinion, once we understand the common vision of the world's religions, cultures, and myths, we're going to find just such a pattern. By the way, just so you know, Smith does not agree that all cultures are equal, and he does not say all cultures are wise. All he's saying is that all cultures have a common vision. This vision of the world's religions seems to point to something that we are suddenly blind to or forgot, and there, in his opinion, what that vision points to are things more wonderful than the tunnel vision that scientific modernity allows us to see. In other words, he finds science and scientism reductionist. What is this wonderful stuff that he talks about that he thinks that we're forgetting? Well, one of those things would be beauty. Why does beauty matter to us? I took this photograph at the Louvre, by the way. It is a statue, not a painting. Okay, let's get our definitions down. Religion. A belief that there is an unseen order and our supreme good lies in harmoniously adjusting ourselves thereto. William James. In the Varieties of Religious Experience. Good definition. I'll buy that one. In classic clockwork science, science couldn't see God or souls or anything like that. So gods, souls, the holy, all of that becomes suspect. There's no machine. You can't put it in the machine. You don't know where it is in the machine. But postmodern science concedes that invisibles do exist. Scientists say that 90% of the universe is invisible to science. It can't be touched or felt. Science has a new problem with religion. Science has come to realize that all matter is created out of some imperceptible substratum. This substratum is not accurately described as material since it is undetectable by any observation. In other words, suddenly, that which is not visible cannot be quite so suspect as it was at the beginning of the scientific culture. He thinks religion has to be readdressed. I do too.